Welcome to Ninon Speaks Media Image. I am your host, Ninon Duver de Rosa. I will be with you for the next hour with an incredible young lady. Her name is Lola. And what is that song they say? Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. Well, we're going to find out exactly what Lola does do. She's actually a consulting and she also does consulting and coaching, as well as being a very well-known movie star. And well, she's done so much, this woman. But then most women that sort of come on my show have done a lot. And this is where we give them a platform so that we can understand who they are, what they are, why they have done what they have done, and also to encourage other women out there to do the same thing. And men, you can come and join us if you like, and also the younger generation. It's like giving a platform out there that there is nothing impossible as far as Ninon Speaks Media Image to do out there. You can do anything you want. I did it. I started it with nothing. So I know because of what I've been through, what I've done, that anybody out there can make it. And you just have to have a few little people around you. These days they call them mentors. When I was coming along, I don't know what they were called, just friends, I believe. Anyway, before I go any further, we have Lola. She's life, health, and balance. That's what she does right now. So with that, she's also been a very prominent movie star in Broadway. She has been on many, many shows, but I'm going to let her talk about what she does and who she is. So let me introduce Lola. How are you?
I'm fine, Nina. Thank you for having me on.
Well, absolutely. I just love your bio. I love your new website, which was launched today. So hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. It's up and running and it looks absolutely lovely. So are you happy about your new website?
I am ecstatic. I had a dream, and this is even more than what I dreamed. It's an amazing website. My web designer, he delivered.
Wow. And to satisfy a woman these days is very difficult because the more we get out there and the more we want and the more we see, not that we didn't have it before, we've always had it, we're just extending our branches a little further. So I think we're taking totally over the world. We did have it half before, but now I think we have it all.
Absolutely. But I want to share with you that my web designer is my son.
Oh,
I
how lovely. That's keeping
asking
in the
my
family,
son,
right?
keep it in the family. He came through for me. I said, look, I've got to have this. I want it. I want to have it before I do the interview with Ninon because it's been down. And she's been asking for my website. And he said, I'll have it for you at 4 a.m. in the morning, Pacific time. And it was there.
Yeah, it was there actually, but I wasn't up at 4 a.m. Soon after that. Let's go back a little bit. You've been in this business for sort of 30 years and acting and doing, some beautiful things in your life. Where did all this start as a child? Is this what you wanted? Can we go back that
Oh,
far?
absolutely. I grew up in New York in a fantastic place called the Bronx River Housing, and it was in the Bronx. And that was when I first got my taste of dancing and performing, and I loved it. I've been performing since I was about 11, 12 years old, and then I attended the High School of Performing Arts where it just grew from there. And from there, I was doing off Broadway and Broadway until I had to go to college.
Oh, you mean Mama made you go to college? I was going to say,
Mama.
when you were 11 years old, was it the inspiration of your mother to make sure you had dancing lessons and make sure you had all those things so that you walked straight and you did all those? Because that's what my mum did.
Absolutely not. As a
Really?
matter of fact, I grew up in a housing project, and in the community center, they had all of these famous dancers from Broadway come in and teach us dance. And that's when I had my first modern jazz class. And my mother actually had us all playing instruments because I come from a family where there are 6 girls. And all of us, except for my youngest sister, played an instrument. I was a violinist. And in elementary school, junior high school, I performed in the borough-wide and citywide orchestras. I performed at Carnegie Hall, and Bess Meyerson at the time was Miss America. And I'm in photos with her back in the early 50s.
So from beginning of time, you've had a very interesting life.
I had a fabulous life. I
And
mean, where I grew up, there was millions of kids to play with every day. You'd go outside and there was always something to do. We had a community center where we not only danced, we had acting lessons. We had some of the famous actors from Broadway. They were doing, I guess it was a program where they came in, they taught acting to the kids in the community center. So I had dance. I had dancers from the Broadway show of West Side Story teach me dance. So of course I wanted to be a dancer.
So this sort of came by accident, actually, because if these performers hadn't come down, to help the inner city children, which is where you're from, right?
Yes, yes.
If they hadn't come down to do this, you would maybe not done what you. Oh, you probably still would have done it because you have the tenacity.
Well, my oldest sister attended the High School of Performing Arts, and I wanted to go there too. And I auditioned for drama, dance, and music. And I got accepted for all three departments. But I chose the drama department because in the drama department, there was singing, there was dancing, and there was acting. So I figured I could get all three.
Yeah, weren't you in Fame?
I was at the High School of Performing Arts, but I was in hair. I was in the original, well, not the original company. I was going in to replace Melba Moore. And I was still in high school. And I had auditioned. I got selected. I was at the rehearsals. And then my older sister said to my mom, "Do you really want your friends looking at your daughter naked on stage?" And at that time, I was underage, and I had to have my parents' permission to be in the company of hair. So I didn't do hair, but I got to practice audition with them until they needed consent, and my mom wouldn't give the consent. And the High School of Performing Arts didn't allow you to be in any professional productions while you were studying at their school.
Wow. Why was that? That's strange. That's a strange request.
Well, sometimes, I found that when you are in training and they're teaching you a specific technique and style, and we were learning the Stanislavski system, they wanted us to be focused on that. I would have left, but if I would have went to a private school, which was, there was a children's professional school, I would have had to repeat the whole year over. And my job was to get out of school and start performing as soon as I could, so I wasn't going to do it. So I went for the whole year and graduated, and then I found that my mom wanted me to go to college. Well, I knew she did, and I had to go to college for 4 years.
So do you think that that was a wise choice? I'm going to say on her side, because that was not your choice. Because life is all about choices and what we do, and sometimes we don't understand the choices we make until much later in life, or, why did we do this, or why did I have to make that choice?
Well, I am so glad my mother demanded that all of her daughters go to college. I'm glad I had that experience. I went to college, I came out of school, and I was fortunate enough to go on the road with James Brown for the next many years after that. So I had a college degree, and I got to travel and experience the world, which was my best education.
And how old were you at this time? What, 22, 23?
Yeah, I had graduated in 1973, and in that December, I went on tour with James Brown.
Now, what is the Robert Hooks group? That's a theater group that you were in.
Well, before it was the Negro Ensemble Company, it was the Robert Hooks Group Theater Workshop, and I was a part of that.
And so then it became the Negro Assembly Company.
I had moved on, but I was with the Robert Hooks Group Theater Workshop, and then I was in the Vinette Carroll's Urban Arts Corps, which she had some of the most famous performers on Broadway. She did Your Arms Too Short to Box with God. She did Alice in Wonderland. It was a black Alice in Wonderland. I played the Cheshire Cat. I played the Griffon. I played so many different characters growing up and being a part of the Broadway scene in New York in the early days.
Well, that must have been amazing. So would you call yourself a character actress, since you were sort of playing so many different parts? You could take on all these different parts? Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. I wasn't what they call an ingenue. And an ingenue has to look a certain way, and they have to be just so. I was too vibrant. I was too animated. I was just fabulous back in the day.
Well, no, I was just going to say that some things never change because you still are animated. You still are out there. You still have the energy, which is amazing. It's.
I love life. I love life. My life is
I can
wonderful.
see that. But it looks like you also love to give life away. It looks like you like to help other people and you know, all the stuff you have learned and what you have done, you feel like you want to sort of now give it to somebody or give it to the women out there, women and men. Do you take care of women and men?
I do.
Or is it just women?
I do. I have a son, and I have like 5 nephews. And as women, we're the ones that shape men to grow, the little boys to grow to be the men that they are. And as women, we have a very important role in making sure these men are compassionate and that they're also loving and nurturing. It's important. If the men are, they've had a very good female teacher.
Because a lot of them are not. A lot of them have kind of missed out somewhere. But I think it's much harder, as you bring it up, for a boy, a young man, to grow up into this world and sort of go from one place to another place than it is for a woman. A woman seems to be able to fit in and roll into her where she is and who she is. For a man, it seems to be much harder as a young boy. Is that so?
Well, my son, who's 30, he'll be 37 in September. He says to me, he says, "Mom, I have the best life." He said, "I'm fortunate to have 2 moms and 2 dads because I remarried, and he had my new husband, and he also was very involved with his father, and his father remarried, and my role was to make sure everybody was on the same page because the important person in this equation was my son." And so he was able to roll, like you say, from one place to the other. As a young person, he was a very successful commercial actor in New York. And that's how I got out to California, because he was cast in a television show. But he's a consummate musician. Mm-hmm. Today, he's a director, producer, composer. He designs and creates programs for computers. And he's been able to go into any environment that he chooses to go into, and he's quite comfortable because I, as a mother, took him everywhere, introduced him to everyone, and let him know these are people that you treat the way you want to be treated. Yes. And so my son, I can say, is that kind of person. I have another friend who raised her son like that too, and her son is very comfortable moving in different circles and being open and compassionate with all people.
I think that's because of you introducing him as growing up as a young age, of taking him with you and introducing to these people, and without him realizing, and probably without you realizing, that you were actually teaching him, you know, be quiet, or don't do this, or you can do this, or this you can do, or watch this and take care of that. So this was all a very natural thing for you and him, not realizing that as this progressed in life, how he felt so comfortable in it.
Yes, I have 2 friends, and they're 2 dads, and they have a little boy. They got a little boy from the time that he was a newborn, and he said to me, he says, "Lola, I'm going to take our son everywhere too, just like you did with yours, because I admire your son. He's just so comfortable in every environment he's in, and I want my son to grow up that way too."
Absolutely. But then also it reflects on you, because now you're so, I'm looking at you and you're so proud sitting there, and you're so proud about talking about your son, because you know, there's so many children that have sort of fallen through the cracks. And I had a TV show for 16 years, so I know a lot of kids, you know, teenagers, that the parents just didn't, it's not they didn't care, maybe they didn't have time, or maybe they just didn't have the knowledge. I don't know what it is, but so many of them. So when I hear your story and I see how happy you are and how secure you are, that this is somebody you brought into the world, and he's successful and he's doing great and he's doing wonderful, but you did put the effort into it. So is this what we're lacking with our younger generation right now, putting the time and effort into our children?
What I've noticed is that people are not stepping back and looking at the big picture. My generation wanted to give their kids everything they didn't have. And what's happening is that they're not having them be accountable They're not having them be responsible. And anything that they do is just fine. And if something isn't working right, the parent steps in and fixes it. Okay. And even though I was there as support for my son, he told me at a very young age, Mom, let me fall, hit the ground, and learn how to pick myself back up.
Wow. And you had to watch that. You had to watch that.
I had to watch that. And you really have to dig deep to be strong to allow them to pick up themselves. And I think he is so much better for that. And so I can stand back and I can see my friends who are always rushing to the aids of their children when they're lacking financially, when they're lacking whatever, they run to the aid to shore them up because they don't believe they can do that. I believed in my son, plus I also respected his wishes.
Of course.
And it was very hard, but he asked, and my sister, who's not here anymore, said to me, when I told her that, she said to me, Lola, I congratulate you because you listened.
Yes. Well, that's what actually is funny. That's one of my greatest sayings. And I had actually a gentleman that called me up and said, I listened to what you said. And I was giving a speech and I said, there's one thing you've got to all do, and just listen. Just listen to your kid. Don't bring your own story into it. Don't bring anything into it. Listen to your kid, because their memory runs in and out very fast. So if you don't listen to them at the beginning, their thoughts are gone and they're onto something else, and then nobody gets anywhere. I think that's what's happening to a lot of our younger generation right now. But this also brings me into what you do, which is life, health, and balance.
Yes.
So you've got these three things that you're actually talking about right now, which is the life, which is your son, and health, which we'll get into, and also being balanced. Then you also have comments, and I just love this one you had. You have comments that you put out there, and they're Lola's lips. And the comment is, practice loving yourself. Now, I don't know if people understand what loving yourself means, whether they mean you've got to pamper yourself. And I interpret it as loving yourself within, finding out who you are, what you are, how you are, what motivates you, how can you motivate other people. So what is it, loving yourself?
Well, you're talking about sweet tips from Lola's lips. And
Yes.
when I talk about loving yourself, people tend to be very hard on themselves. They get up, they look in the mirror, and they say, oh, I'm too fat. I've got these bags under my eyes. I don't like my teeth. My hair won't go right. I feel horrible. My goodness.
So suddenly walk outside the door and a total wreck.
Oh, my, yes. You have to start out by saying, I am so grateful for being able to open my eyes that are so beautiful that I can see beauty in everything. First, I see beauty within myself. I see beauty within myself, and I'm so grateful for feeling good. I feel good. I love my face. I love my hair. I love me. Because if you can't find the love within you, you can't see it in anyone else.
Absolutely. So in other words, when they look at, because I want to give this message out to women and men. We're going to be talking about women and men, because everything seems to be always geared around women. And we also have another sex out there called men. And I think they also need just as much as sometimes of what we need. Now, instead of looking in the mirror, and yes, you are fat, you've got bags under your eyes, your hair's not looking good, and you look at all that and you take all that in. So in other words, you don't really look at that anymore. So now you look at your eyes and you look at how beautiful they are, and you start turning it around as of, how great I look. And then I guarantee that each morning you do that, each morning you're going to look better anyway. Because
you got it. That's right.
It's going to go inside. So, in other words, don't look for the bad things. Start looking for the good things, which you also have.
And you'll attract the good things. And I'm glad you brought up men, because we're seeing in the news today that a lot of these young men are feeling rejected. They're feeling depressed, and they're doing some pretty harsh things to other people. And our society tends to create this reality that really has nothing to do with anything, because it's about our spirit. It's about our spirit, and that spirit that shines through. So when you have a guy that says, I'm too short, the women don't like me, if you feel that way, they won't like you. If you walk around like you are a reject or dejected, Why would anybody want to be around that energy? You have some of your most successful and popular men who aren't 6 feet tall.
Oh
And it's
no, there's a
because
lot of you guys, the greatest actors in the world that always seem to end up at 5'6". And
that's
the
right.
greatest actors, I mean, I knew a lot of them, and when I met them, I thought, whoa, you're really short, but you wouldn't say that, of course not, because they're so famous and they're so. But they never let that get in the way.
Never, because they believed in themselves and they felt that they were beautiful, that they understood that the gift of life and to be able to have this adventure. And that's another thing that I talk about with my clients. My adventure may not have anything to do with your adventure. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. We all have a unique adventure and journey to go on.
But that's the beautiful thing about life. That's what makes life. That's what makes us an individual. I mean, there's a lot of women like me, but there's none of them just like me. I hope not, poor things. But we're all so different, and I think we need to. A lot of people like to, I live in Vegas, and I have an awful lot of impersonators here. There's a lot of men here that impersonate some famous actor, and I say to them, I say, you have a beautiful voice. Why are you impersonating somebody else when you have something so beautiful yourself? I've never understood that, because if they've got that talent enough to do what they do, why can't they use it for themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's the trick? What is the trick for men and women? Because we're definitely going to keep it on a men and women thing. What is the trick to actually, for a lot of people out there that really don't feel good about themselves, they're becoming overweight, and then they're overweight because they say they don't care anymore.
Right.
Well, how do we bring this nation to come back to start caring for whom they are?
Well, all of that is behavioral, okay? And if you want to change, you have to be what I call a spiritual athlete, okay? You have to get up and you have to practice that every day. Even if you resort back to saying, oh, I don't like the way I feel, catch yourself, pick yourself back up and say, but I'm grateful that I can feel, because there are other people who wish they were in your shoes that could feel. And so I always say you have to look around you and be grateful for what you can see and what you can do. If you have a roof over your head, be grateful for that. So then go back to that mirror and look at yourself and start identifying all the beautiful and wonderful things about yourself. And if you start saying that every single day, it'll become a habit. It'll become a habit, just like you get up and brush your teeth and go to the bathroom and then start making your coffee or your breakfast. By getting up and telling yourself how beautiful you are and how great you feel, and today is going to be an awesome day, you'll do that naturally, and you'll start attracting all the wonderful things for that person who feels that they're overweight. Well, if you keep telling yourself you're overweight and there's nothing you won't do, but if you say, I feel great, I think I'll take a walk. You know, and that starts the whole process.
So that revolves around, then that takes you to the next level and the next level and the next level, because you start seeing the beauty within yourself, and then the beauty within starts coming out.
And you have to talk about it out loud. Because I use the universal laws of attraction as my foundation, I really believe when you say things, you're actually sending vibrations out that come back. And I'll say this, when I had my one son, I wanted another child, but my husband at the time didn't want any more. And so I said, okay, but I would love a little girl. Now, I'm not saying that, well, anyway, my son's dad, him and his wife had a little girl, a beautiful little girl. And unfortunately, her mom died when she was 13. And she said, Lola, can I call you Mom? It brought tears to my eyes, because here I asked for a daughter. I mean, not to say that I wanted anything horrible to happen, but the universe did deliver me a 13-year-old beautiful teenager. So now I have 2 children.
Yeah. So you are, but I truly believe you put the energy out on that, not for the woman to pass away, but I think you put the energy out on that to sort of bring that together, and that's what you have. It's funny you should say that, because I don't have any children, and I've always wanted children, but I was married for 29 years, and unfortunately my husband couldn't have them anymore. Anyway, but because of the show I did, I have hundreds of children. I have so many children now that, and I always wanted all children, and, I love children, and I will do anything I have their back. And like you, I got them.
Yes.
I got them Oh,
I had said I wanted a basketball team, and I used to manage children. So
yeah.
I had all of these children that I called my own when I managed them, because one of the reasons why I got into management and children is because I wanted to make sure the kids had a wonderful opportunity. They enjoyed it, because my son did. My son came to me and said, this is what I want to do. And when I started traveling around the country, judging talent shows and seeing all of these children out there, some of them were 3, and the mom is pushing them and saying this is what they want to do, and there's no way possible that a lot of them, now some of them at 3 do know that this is what they want to do, and you'll see it the minute they have a conversation with you. But
Yes.
I became a manager specializing in children, because I think children, when they're on the screen, you're supposed to smile when you see them come out, because they have that spirit that's saying, I'm having fun, I'm so happy to be here, and everybody feels good when they see a kid come on the screen.
And the reason you probably do that is because your own childhood, these other people coming in and teaching you something you didn't know in the filming and all this business, so you kind of giving back. And I was going to ask you that you had a very big career in filming. What are the films you were in? Some pretty big films.
Well, my career, when I was in high school, I was in Up to Down Staircase with Sandy Dennis.
Yes.
And then I did The Super. My son was starring in that show, that movie with Joe Pesci. And they asked me if I would choreograph the house party scene. And I choreographed the scene where you had kids, you had young adults, you had adults and grandparents. And I put the electric slide in there, because that's the only dance that everybody over every generation can be on the floor dancing. And I had a very good close-up scene, dancing scene with Joe Pesci.
Oh,
I did a couple of independent films like Good Morning, Mr. Sunshine, and some other things. But when my son got in the business, I made a choice. When he said this is what he wanted to do, and I said, okay, we can do it, I made a choice to put my career on hold and focus it on him.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, because you're very talented. And then you went into this, life, health, and balance. Why did you go? Because this is like consulting, and it's like I'm looking at, there's so many consultants out there now doing the same thing, not the same words, but they're all directing to the same sort of thing, and it's sort of saturated with these consultants now. How do you feel about so many out there, and how do people choose out there to make sure they get the right one, or should I say the right fit for them of what they want?
Right. Well, first of all, I'll say this. I was a manager for many years, and then I started consulting, because I did travel nationwide, and I also some out of the country. When people came to Los Angeles, they would look me up and would want me to manage them. I got to a point where it didn't excite me anymore, so what they could do was come and hire me as a consultant, and I would find the perfect fit with an agent or a manager. And then after a while, I wanted more. And I started looking through the internet, and it was like, do I want to go back and get a master's in psychology? Do I want to go back? And I kept seeing life coach, life coach, life coach. And I was reading all the different descriptions. And then one day my son's dad said to me, look up Cynthia Robinson. And then on her website, she had Christy Whitman, the QSCA, Quantum Success Coaching Academy, using the universal laws of attraction. And she had such an impactful presentation that I said right then and there, this is the one that I'm going to go to. It spoke to me. I didn't have any money then. I didn't have any money because I had gone through a divorce, and I was actually a deer in headlights for almost 6 years. I couldn't make up my mind what to do. I was frozen. But the coaching kept pulling me. Yeah. And Christy said, if you step out on faith, what you need will come. And it did.
It always does.
I signed up, I registered, and the course is a whole year. And you go through the course. The course is a year because, let me say, as a coach for the QSCA, the Quantum Success Coaching Academy, Christy Whitman's program, you as a person have to travel on that journey. Before you can take a client on a journey, before you can listen and hold that client's vision and support that client, you have to first take that journey. And that whole year that I went through her program, when it was over, I was a different person. I
Even
was,
for yourself, you found yourself had totally changed.
Nina, you don't know. I graduated in 2011 when I
Oh,
got my
recently.
certification. Yes. And then in 2000, was it 2011? It was in May. And then I went to see my sister in November, my oldest sister. And she
Okay.
was so angry. She was so angry. She said such horrible, mean
Are
things
you?
to me, talking about youth. But let me say this, because I had gone through that program,
Uh-huh.
I kept my center and I said, I know you're in pain. And please forgive me if I hurt you or harmed you in any way. And she kept raging and raging and raging. And when I left, I was saying, she really needs help and I hope she gets it. She died that May.
Oh,
And I
wow.
saw her in November, and I am so grateful that I went through that program, because if I didn't, I would have been my own self, my mean self, and I would have reacted, and I would have reacted to her.
And
I
you
would have
would have you
reacted
you would have been mean to her, but
and said mean things back, and I did.
now because you understood. Well, I've always said, when somebody is angry and mad and they start screaming and yelling at you, I always say to people, don't take that on. Just because they've got a problem and they've got all this anger, it doesn't mean to say you have to start yelling and screaming back to them, because you don't have that. You just walked in and everything's fine with you. But a majority of people, 99% of people, will take on the argument that somebody else is having. And they'll take this thing on, and then the whole row starts, and then you say all these words that you wish you'd never opened
And
your
you
mouth
walk
at.
away, and then, like, I left her in November, and then in May I got the call. That was the last time I saw her. And if I would have reacted like you said, I
Yeah.
would have been so hurt. I would have been devastated. But I was so grateful that I responded by saying, I know you're in pain. I'm so sorry for your pain. And I just loved her. I loved her. There was nothing I can do. It was her pain. It was her journey. But I was so grateful that I had gone through this program, and I didn't react. Instead, I responded. I responded from my heart.
But also you felt a nice feeling because she had passed away and you had not had that interaction with her. You had actually
Absolutely.
been very calm. So therefore that put you into a very nice place of saying, well, at least, when I last saw her, everything was fine. So that makes you feel good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, because of the program that I've gone through, and also there are also more programs. I went through the light body classes where you are actually meditating and finding your center even more so. And when I went through the program, I wasn't ready then. And it
No.
took a whole year before my going through the program, getting through the program, and saying, now I'm ready for the next level.
Yeah.
So when you're looking for a coach, you have to see if you feel good with that person. There are a lot of coaches out there. There are a lot of programs out there, but I've looked at them, and most of them are like 3 months or maybe 6 months, but hers is a complete year, and the requirements that you have to meet to get certified are quite strenuous.
But I also, yes, I think it should be hard. I think because obviously what you're going to learn if it's not hard. If you know it all already, there's no point in going. But I also think you said a very good point there, that you have to feel comfortable with the person. And I think when you feel comfortable, and that's in any business and doing anything, you feel comfortable with that particular person, it makes it much easier. I think you learn more. I think you understand more.
You're more open, because if you're going to a coach, specifically, like I say, I'm looking to work with people who come to me because they want to change, they want to grow. And growing can be quite painful at times. And if you're not comfortable with the coach that's guiding you and supporting you during the process, nothing will come of it.
No. Now, another thing, have we all totally become totally ignorant, or we don't know anything, and now we have to be retaught everything? Because, again, going back to coaches or teachers or whatever you want to call them all, they're all got different names. And we're all now sort of, especially I've noticed with the older generation, well, not older, maybe from 50 and up, I've noticed there's a lot out there that are recreating and refining their life, or realizing that they have far more within them than they've ever actually put out there. Is this so?
I believe so. My thing is, I have a lot of clients that come to me, and they have belief systems that they've adopted or were given by their parents and their parents' parents. And I always share with my clients that they did the best that they could with what they had. We have so much more now. So we have the opportunity to grow and
Yeah.
to say, look, I'm 60. I can actually start a new career now if I choose to. Years ago, the other generation, they figured at 50, they was over. That was
That
it.
was the end of their life completely. And
Go
this is
somewhere and lay down and die.
yeah, and
Yes.
even men, because we just went through a whole big thing with the economy and everything. So a lot of men, CEOs and CFOs and all these different people got fired. And these are, we're talking about men of 55 and 60-year-olds. A lot of the companies rehired a younger person that could do the computer and do like 10 people's job in one. So you've got a lot of these guys that also came out there, but it always seems to be around women. You don't really hear that many classes or places for men to go to, you know, rules and tools that build the successful woman.
Yes.
And it's always about this successful woman, and it's like, you know,
Well, I think
not be successful.
I think a lot of men, because of an old belief system, you are the man, you have to take a job because you have to support your family. And a lot of them, you know, they took their passion, something that they loved or wanted to do in life, because they had to go and work at a job.
Yes.
So the thing about it, there's no such thing as jobs anymore, because no one is like in the 50s where you went to a corporation, everybody wanted a job at a corporation because you were going to stay there until you're retired. That doesn't exist anymore. And as far as retirement, that's an old belief too. There's no such thing as retire. They're telling you now, if you retire, your brain cells die. You're not challenging your mind or creating synapses for it to grow. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep learning and exploring and doing new things, or things that you've always wanted to do but couldn't do before.
So in other words, you're sort of kind of reinventing your body that you always had, but you never tapped into all those lovely things that you thought maybe one day or maybe never, but this is something I'd really, really like to do. But now they can actually do it. So this actually is the reason why we have so many consultants out there, because we really need them to help these people, you know, to give them the confidence, to give them who they are and what they are. And yes, they can do it. And age is just a number.
Age is just a number, yes. And the thing about it is that I'm a coach, and I have a coach who coaches me, because everybody can use somebody to say, to cheer them on, because that's what a coach does. Go ahead, Lola, you can do it. Tell me your dreams. Are you dreaming? Dream bigger. Dream bigger. There was a time before I went to the QSCA, the Coaching Success Academy, I forgot how to dream. I forgot how to use my imagination. And now I have it again, because I did all the exercises, and every day I make sure that I am dreaming, I'm imagining, I'm creating vision boards and vision books, seeing things I like, and from that growing. As a little girl, I always dreamed. I dreamed of dancing and performing all over the world, and I did it.
You did that. So now you're on another platform, you're on another place doing other things. Now you've come back to dreaming again, of these dreams coming true. Though. So the message out there that we're actually giving is definitely for the older person, I'm going to go 50 and up, is that you're not dead. You know,
No.
there's an awful lot of stuff. It's like, now health-wise, we've got into life a little bit, now you do health. Health-wise, how does this, I'm not going to say only America, because it's going on all over the world, everybody's become awfully heavy,
Yes.
little chubby. And so now we've got to try to rectify that. And there was an article the other day which cracked me up. They were saying that they've got to make food more expensive so people buy less. And I thought that was hysterical. Somebody came up with this ludicrous, they're going to make food more expensive. Okay. Well, maybe the fast food they're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about, but I thought that was so hilarious.
That is, that's the first I've heard of it, and that is hysterical, yes. And just because the good food is expensive, don't buy the fast food because it's least expensive. As a dancer, I was very active. I had a body to die for. During that whole 6-year period where I was lost, I injured my back, okay?
Oh.
When you're depressed, when you're down, and the energy is low, you attract all of that.
Yeah,
Once I started my path, once I started that path, I walk. And when I first started, I was like walking so vigorously, and I do that for 2 or 3 days that I find myself not able to walk on the fourth day. But because I've got it in balance now, I walk 2 miles. I walk 2 miles, do a little stretching, little dancing, little step, but not too much. I don't overdo it because I had to be an overachiever, but I got that in balance. So I can get up, take my walk, do my stretches, and I feel great. If I don't do it, I don't feel as good. So it's important for me to make sure that I have that time to do my walking so that my heart stays healthy, that my joints, because if you don't use them, you lose them, okay? And I'm someone that's over the 55-year-old thing, so you've got to make sure those limbs are moving. You don't want to get osteoporosis. You don't want to start having your bones decrease. You don't want any of that, and you want the heart to stay strong and pumping.
So this actually comes all the way to your brain to get your brain reacting as of what you should do. So you have to try to eat healthy because although the food you used to eat, you were more active. So therefore, you can't eat that same food because you're not as active. So you have to really choose what you're eating. And to be overweight is really not a comfortable place for anyone to be. And I don't care how they say, I don't care. They all care, believe me, and they'd much rather inside every large body is a skinny body, believe me.
Well, the real issue is the heart can't handle all that weight. The joints can't handle all that weight. So if you don't care about the weight, your heart and your joints will, and it will sit you down or lay you down in a box. So you decide if you want to live, help your heart out and your joints out by reducing. We're not talking about going on fads or diets. I mean, I say it's not a diet, it's a way of life. You will learn how to gradually take out things. I have a gluten, and I'm allergic to gluten. Let me put it that way. I cannot have anything with gluten or wheat in it. Boom,
I have a girlfriend the same way. Same thing.
It knocked out all the bread. It knocked out all the cakes. It knocked all of that. I have allergies. So there's a lot of food that I can't. So when I do eat, I'm very selective. Selective.
That's a good way, but I'm trying to, for the women out there that want to feel good, just like looking in the mirror, feel good about yourself. Even if you're 200 pounds overweight, start feeling good about it. Because I think these are all first steps, and then watch what you eat. And I think they also must understand it has absolutely nothing to do with anybody else but themselves.
Absolutely.
Would that be the first statement?
Absolutely. That's a statement that I live by. I stand by it because it's about you. Yeah. It's about making you happy. And I always say to people who are concerned about other people and looking, if anything happens to you, your heart stops or you have an attack or you're the one that's going to the hospital, not the other people who are judging, who are making those things. So get in balance and grounded with you first.
Yeah.
It starts with you.
It's funny because we have, people have an illness or whatever illnesses or illness. They can have many or one.
Well, they call it dis-ease.
But they always blame it. It's actually funny. It's nothing to do with them. It's always something else or somebody else, or there's always another reason that the reason they're sick is because it's something else outside. And it is not. It is totally it's in your body, so it has to be you. But most people don't like to admit that. Why?
That's being accountable and being responsible. The people who blame everything else on everybody else, but once again, you are the one that's being affected by it. If it's someone else's fault that you're overweight and your knees hurt and you got to have surgery now, well, why isn't that other person going through the surgery or feeling the pain? You are. If you're feeling the pain, it starts with you.
It's like I'm overweight because of my mother. I'm overweight because of my children, or I'm overweight because my husband didn't come home last night. There's always all these excuses.
They're playing victim.
Victim. Okay.
They've decided to play victim. Yes.
So we call that victim. So how do they get out of being a victim?
Well, that once again, it's a process. It's a process for them to take responsibility for everything that has to do with them, because you are the only one. In other words, no one can make you feel bad unless you allow it. Okay, you have to say, I accept those words, or you tell me that I'm fat because I'm eating too much. You've got to accept that. Yes, you're eating too much, because when you get to be over a certain age, you have to reduce the caloric intake, or
Yes.
you've got to burn more. So you make the choice. I have a friend. Her name is Lori Johnson, and she's an amazing tap dancer and life coach. She coaches dancers, and she loves chocolate. So what she does, she eats her chocolate, but she runs on the beach. She runs and burns off those calories that she took. So you have to be, if you say you've got to have that glass of champagne, or you've got to have that piece of cake, so then what do you need to do to basically balance that out? Remember, it's all about balance. You've got to burn those calories off so they don't sit on you.
One way or the other. It's funny, I have a terrible habit, and everybody criticizes it. Oh, you shouldn't do that, Ninon. And I say, okay, fine, but this is what my choice is. This is what I do. I happen to weigh myself every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And every morning I weigh myself, and actually it so happens I've just lost about 4 pounds. So I'm really happy about that. And for no other reason. It just kind of, I don't know, just I wanted to lose it, and I kept putting it in my head and putting it in my head that I wanted to, and I've now lost it. Another couple of more pounds to go. But they say that's not a very good thing to do. Is it not good just to do the things you like to do that kind of help you? I mean, this helps me, and it's a way, it's a choice I've made, and it's a thing I do, but it kind of makes me feel good. So when people interject other things that you shouldn't do, you really should listen to yourself.
Well, you said the key word. It's your journey. It's not someone else's. Okay. It makes you feel good, and the goal is to feel good. Life is supposed to feel good. If that makes you feel good, you meet the goals that you set for yourself. Why not do it? The other person, me personally, I don't weigh myself. My clothes, if they get loose, I know I'm losing fat. Okay. Yeah. I don't step on a scale. I went for my checkup, and my doctor says to me, as he's feeling around my stomach, oh my goodness, you've lost a lot of weight. And then he looks at but the numbers are this, you've lost fat. The numbers are the same. And my thing is that I feel good, my clothes fit good, I look good in my clothes. That's my goal. And that's everybody has different goals.
Yeah, but you're so right, because when you put your clothes on and they feel comfortable, you can kind of move in them. Whereas sometimes you're like trying to sort of, whoops, can't quite move the same. But when they fit properly and they feel good and you feel comfortable, now you've got something here, and it says, the choices you make, there's always a consequences to the choice you make.
That's right.
Clarify that a little bit for, so that people out there do understand it's not somebody else's choice, it's their choice.
Because I believe in quantum physics and the law of cause and effect. When you choose something, there's always an effect. If I choose to get up and walk every morning, the effect is that I'm going to feel good. I'm also going to lose fat. Okay, and I'm going to feel good. If I choose not to walk every day, to eat ice cream and cake and drink champagne and just not eat anything, the effect is that I'm going to be overweight, I'm going to have high cholesterol, I'm going to have fat around my heart, and I'll probably get sick and maybe have a heart attack. That's cause and effect. What you choose to do has an effect. So think about, before you make a choice, know that the choice you make, there will be an effect. Not to say, be afraid. No, make the choice. If it doesn't work out, guess what? You could make another choice, okay?
Yeah. You don't have to be stuck in a choice.
All the successful inventors, the people who are wealthy, the people who are successful that we know their names, they made many, many, many choices, and they got their results, which is the effect. And if it wasn't the result or the effect they want, they went back and made different choices. So that's why every choice has a consequence or an effect.
It really does, and I love when you bring up the idea of the wealthy people and how they are, because I think people think that they just became wealthy. They don't realize that the consequences they've gone through, the choices they've made, the successes they've had, and also the faults they've had, but they've been able to understand something that went wrong because of that choice to go and try something else. So if walking every morning doesn't affect what you want it to affect in your body, then try something else. Maybe go swimming, or go to exercise class, or go to whatever the case is. I don't know. I don't know. But whatever that, if it's not working, don't be afraid to make another choice.
Absolutely. That's what you have. You have free will to make choices. And those people who say, well, this person didn't allow me, or that didn't allow me, remember, they're playing victim. Because if it's what you truly want to do, you will do it. You'll find a way. Just like you find a way to eat that extra piece of cake when nobody's looking. You find a way. You just have to make sure that what your goal is, or your passion, or your life choice is something that's going to make you feel good. I can't judge what makes another person feel good. It's their journey, their choice, and it's going to be their results.
The only thing you can do is you give them all the opportunities. You let them know every single thing. As a consultant, you give them all the guidelines. You give them the life, the health, and most important of all of these is the balance. Because if you don't have this balance within your life, because a balance, I think I would probably say, is you've got the good and the bad, and you've got to see, balance it out and come out, where you are. Because you're going to have a lot of bad, you're going to have a lot of good. So you've got to kind of balance this all out as to what you want and where you want to go. And I also think that women out there, not to be afraid anymore, which I don't think they are, but not to be afraid anymore of making that step to a place they've never been before. I think make that step. What can happen? Nothing's going to happen. Nothing dramatic is going to happen.
When they realize that they can claim their lives back, they're going to feel so empowered. They're going to feel so wonderful. Most women and men have this false reality that there are people who are looking at them just to point their finger. And if they do, that person doesn't have a life, okay? And you do. So you need to make your life the way you want it to be, and the goal is to feel good. If you want success, you still have to feel good. You still have to look good. You have to be healthy. You have to have everything in balance for you to enjoy whatever success that you want.
Absolutely. It's like, we just went through this whole thing of this devastation for the few years of the economy and everything else. And everybody says, well, the wealthy are fine. They've got, they've got all the money and they can pay and they can do that. Absolutely, totally wrong. Their bills are bigger and higher, and the same as somebody that owns a $100,000 home and they own a $10 million home. It is exactly the same thing. Okay, so they might have the Rolls Royces and they've got a Toyota. Doesn't make any difference. They're still the same place. They still got to pay those bills. They still got to work out their life. They still got to have their choices. So I think when we talk about the people that have less fortunate financially, I don't think they should worry as much, because they've probably got less worries than the person over here that's got all these worries with the money and everything else, and they have to cope as well. I think people misunderstand that tremendously.
Like we always say, it's all relative. Because it's all relative. A person can walk in and say, oh my God, you're rich. And another person can walk in and say, oh, this is where you live. So it's all relative. And if you pay so much attention to what other people are saying, you'll miss out on living your life.
Yes. So don't miss out on living your life. Now then, where can people reach you, Lola?
Oh, I have a website now. You can reach me at L as in live, H as in happy, B as in balance, consult, CONSULT, coach, COACH.com, LHBconsultcoach.com. You can reach me through my website, and I would love to work with you.
That's one. So what would you like to give something out there to the men who are listening and who would like to enhance their lives, but they're feeling a little, because men get more embarrassed than women. So what would you like to tell a man so that he can just sort of, get off that couch and start feeling good about himself again?
Well, I would like to say to all the men out there, think about what you truly want in life. What's important for you? Because men are never asked that question. They always have to give. I'm asking you, what's important to you? What is your passion? And give me a call. And we can actually investigate. We can explore. We can brainstorm. I can ask you some very powerful questions to get you on your road to living your life fully and having all the things that you truly want. And people will be celebrating you because you were brave enough to say, hey, life is good and I'm going to live it to my best.
Absolutely, because you're absolutely right, because I think they always feel because they are men that they should not have this problem, but they're still human, and I know they have this problem. I know a lot of men that have that particular problem, and you can see it written in the, and there's a man right now I know, and I'm looking at him thinking, I wish I could help this guy, but he's certainly not going to ask me, because he thinks I'm more prosperous than him, which I probably am. But that has nothing to do with the equation. That has nothing to do with where I am, and is trying to help him as to what he needs. So I think it's a lot of men really do need that help out there.
And to start out with asking them, what do you want to do for you? Nobody else right now. Just think about you. Because remember, men are told they're not supposed to show their emotions. They're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to feel. They're not supposed to have any type use any of the feelings, the emotions that everybody has. That's not fair. So yes, think about what you truly want to do, what's passionate to you.
And that's, because I know that's hard for a lot of them. And it might sound like the most ridiculous thing in the entire world, but why can't they do it, and why can't they have it? And if this one makes them happy, go and do it. And don't feel
I think the younger generation is doing it. You know, you have a lot of dads who are staying home and taking care of the kids, and then you have the older generation commenting on that, and the younger ones are saying, this is my life, I choose to do this. John Lennon was the first one to do it, and he was such a great dad, and those who actually caught on to that gift have stepped in. I see more dads taking their little kids to Pete's in the morning for coffee, and it's so wonderful to see a dad with his little daughter, his little son, and they have such a connection.
Yes, and I agree with that so much. I mean, I was brought up with my mum and dad around all the time, so I did not have just a mum. I had a dad and a mum. They were always together, and we were all brought up that way. But I don't see much of that sort of now, and I also see the women sort of not putting the man down, but sort of, well, you can't do that, that's like, it's not for you to do, but which is not true anymore. And I think, we're looking at an awful lot of these young boys that are going into these shooting things, and there's a lot of shootings we don't hear about. A lot we do hear about, but we don't hear about all of them. And this is, and you're looking at this, and you're looking at, they're so depressed. They're only like 16, 17, 18, or 20, whatever, but they're all very young. Why at such a young age? What can we do to help these?
Well, in my book, Sweet Tips from Lola's Lips, 52 Tips for Living a Healthy, Balanced Life, I have a chapter in the month of June. It's called about, the theme is communication. When we talk, words are so powerful. They create images in the mind. And if you're telling someone that they're not good enough, that they're stupid, they're dumb, you're useless, you're nothing, they're going to believe it and do that. Or you're too short, or you're not smart enough, or you're dumb. You're never going to be anything. That's telling the universe, telling that kid that, and then they actually make it come true.
Well, no, they believe it because they're so young too. They're learning. I mean,
well, even adults do. If you tell an adult male, you're not good enough, you're useless, you're a waste. And women can be quite hard on men if they're not giving them the life that they've created in their heads. And then the guy will not produce anything because you're telling him he's not, and he's not going to perform. It doesn't flip and say, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. I am going to be successful. I am going to be about that. Not if you're telling that every day. If you want a successful person, you got to tell them every day, you can do it. You're wonderful. You're great. You're smart. You're beautiful. You've got to use words that are of love.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think what we need, the message here now is the mothers, men to be men and women to be women. And it's not that we are that different. It's just that we both take on different roles, and I think we need to be proud of each role we take on. I can never do a lot of things men do, and I personally don't want to. And I personally have not been brought up to do that. So I've been brought up to be whom I am, which is a woman, and then the boys, you know, they're brought up a different. You see them running around with the guns and different things, and you know, and the girls with the toys. But it's definitely how you're brought up. I believe is a good thing with your beginning of your life. But at the same time, you still have those choices, and you still have those feelings, and to get that balance into really where you want to go.
Most importantly, everybody's going to choose, just like you said. There are things that I don't want to do, and because I don't, no one should be able to judge. Allow somebody to be who they want to be. If you want to, I like shopping, I like pretty things, and if somebody who wasn't brought up that way, really you're creating an issue when you start judging.
Yeah.
If you focus on yourself, you won't have time to look at anybody else to judge. Focus on yourself, because believe me, I know. You probably need a lot of work on yourself by loving yourself. And if you loved yourself, you couldn't say a negative word to anyone else.
That's awesome, because we've now come to the end of our program, and that was an incredible message you just put out there to our audience. Because be who you are, take your choices, whatever those choices may be, it doesn't matter. We've had the incredible Lola with us, and you can reach her at www, I think it's lhbconsultcoaching.com. Coach.com.
That's right.
To be reached. And incredible lady. She's only been doing this for a few years, but that's all you need. And she changed her whole life around. So you can too, by giving her a call and getting in touch with her. And she will help you one-on-one, maybe doing a group. I don't know. Whatever you want and however you want it done, she will do it for you. Thank you very much for watching Ninon Speaks Media Image. Next week we have another young gentleman over. He's a concert pianist, and he's going to be very fascinating and interesting. We'll see what he has to say. And thank you, Lola, for coming on to Ninon Speaks. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.